Hey everybody, just Tim Ross again, President of Mudlick Mail. We have a lot of people signing up for this webinar, so I appreciate everybody who's already signed up. If you guys can just be patient with me here. We've got about 2 or 3 more minutes here until we start, and we have a lot of people that are logging on. So hang in there, and again, thank you again for signing up for and waiting for setting yourself up for a record fourth quarter with Greg Sands. Just hang in there with me just a few more minutes. All right, guys. Again, this is Tim Ross, President of Mudlick Mail. I appreciate y'all attending our webinar today. We've got a couple more minutes. We've had so many people sign up for this. This whole thing's going to max out here pretty soon, and then we'll have to get started anyway. So let's give me a couple more minutes as people get onto this webinar. Everybody's in listen-only mode right now. I'm going to keep everybody in that listen-only mode. And I'm going to go over in just a couple of minutes how you guys can ask questions. A lot of you have been on webinars before. Greg, who is our CEO of Mudlick Mail, as well as SR Sanco, thought it was just a really important topic today for us to talk about the fourth quarter and how you guys can take advantage of some small changes in your business that he does every year that is 100% owner profit. And then we're also going to talk a little bit at the very end about the market trends. He'll probably mix it up as he goes through, but I think there's some key components there that he is seeing that's shifting in our marketplace that's very, very critical in our industry that we're really aware of. So we've got just a few more people here that I know that the attendee list is going crazy right now, getting everybody signed up. I'm going to unmute a couple people because I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. And so I think what I'm going to do is see if I can unmute a couple of you here. All right, hang in there. So we got more and more people here lining up. All right, guys, hold on 1 second here. We'll get started. If I've got a lot of attendees out there. If you guys could just, if one of you guys could just raise your hand, if you've ever done the webinars in the back or in the past, just raise your hands real quick and let me know if you can hear me. Okay, there we go. We got a bunch there. Okay, great. Great. That means you guys can hear me. We're going to try to unmute some people here. All right, good. Looks like I got everybody unmuted there. Okay. Good. Gary Gunn, I can hear you just fine. Thank you, sir. All right, we are getting really close to getting maxed out here. Okay. Bob Hicks, can you hear me okay?
Sure can, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I saw that lucky name right there, and I figured, man, I'm going to try and see if Bob's paying attention. So you caught me.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, I appreciate you being on here. I'm going to mute you again here, and then we're going to get started. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Thank you again. This is Tim Ross, president of Mudlick Mail. I see a lot of you guys on the attendee sheet that I know real well, so I appreciate you guys coming on board. What I wanted to go over real quick with you guys is, if you haven't done these before, what we're going to do is I'm going to keep everybody on mute, and then if you have a question, if you could raise your hand, and then we will go over that question. It may not be right away, but we'll try to get to as many as we can. We are completely kind of maxed out here, so we're going to go ahead and get started right on time. I am happy to say I've got my CEO and partner, Greg Sands, with me here today. Say hello, Mr. Sands.
Hey, Tim. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Today, again, we're going to talk about setting yourself up for a record fourth quarter. This is something that was really important to Greg over the last couple of weeks. We started talking about the different things in his business. He spent more and more time in his businesses than ever before. And for some of you who might be new to Mudlick Mail or new to Greg, let me just give you a quick little history of Greg. Comes out of I'm not going to go all the way back to the beginning, but he comes out of the restaurant industry, has been in the automotive industry now for a little over 20 years, currently owns and operates close to 30 stores in 4 states, including a Euro store. And majority of his stores are 6-8 bay shops. They'll do $1.5 to $2 million in sales. Just depends on the market and the store. And so Mudlick Mail was created originally just as a way to help handle his marketing. But the other reason why is that when we started this company, we didn't want to be postcard pushers. And so we've teamed up with a lot of great companies out there that are really great educators and leaders in the industry. And so one of the added benefits we wanted to do is be able to offer you guys some information, strategies, techniques, things that we've used to be successful in Greg's stores, and kind of incorporate a little bit of that in Mudlick Mail. And so what you're going to hear today is really coming from an owner's perspective. When Greg goes into his stores, the different things he's looking for, ways that he can grow his company, save money, and thus the title, Setting Yourself Up for a Record Fourth Quarter. Once we finish up with this, we're going to move right into actually a little topic that we didn't initially plan on, but doing some research, Greg really wants to talk a little bit about market trends and the shifting going on in our industry, where we're all seeing some record car count declines, some changes going on with the oil change customer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So without further ado, Greg, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our first slide. And we're going to talk resetting your business.
Yeah, and this is, we talk about this a lot of times, writing budgets and getting ready for next year, but I've never really had a chance to talk about what we do to get ready for fourth quarter. For most people, unless you're in a real cold climate, the fourth quarter can really make or break your year. It's a very tough time of the year for a lot of people. September is a tough month. But if you do it right, it's an opportunity for you to make a lot of times more money than you do in the summertime. And so if you look at this first slide, the people, here's what I find, and shop owners tend to run counter to what works. You know, if you're looking for technicians in the summertime when it's blown out busy, you end up a lot of times negotiating a really bad deal, a deal you can't handle, and a deal that's not going to last for the technician. And so what we try to do is push, push looking for great technicians right now. When it's the slowest out there is when those boxes are moving. And that's when a time, even though you could try several things, that's a time when, you know, maybe things that you tried in the past that didn't work because you tried it in the middle of summer will work great now. And so we go all out on looking for great technicians. And the things we do that don't work in the summertime tend to start working for us now. And some of those is, you know, you want to put ads out there. You want to run Craigslist. You want to run Monster. And, you know, a lot of times those don't work. But when it's slow out there, technicians are looking for jobs, good technicians, some that negotiated really great deals for themselves in the summertime, shop owners can now not handle. For example, a technician might have negotiated getting 40-hour-week guarantees in the summertime. Well, those same shop owners are finding they can't honor those guarantees. So it's a good time for you to pick up a technician like that without a guarantee. And so you can kind of fix mistakes that you made in the summertime. And so if you can think of your business like this, when I look at people, I think of myself as almost like imagine if you own an NFL team and it's the off season. You know, it's your time. You're not really trying to save money on people because you could really make a mistake and get less talent. I think good talent's worth money. But what you're trying to do is make sure that you have the best talent for the amount of money that you're able to spend to run your business. And so it's a good time for you to go after AAA technicians and pay a fair rate versus some huge comp plan that you know you're not going to be able to stay into. It's also a good time on managers and service writers where you know, you need to be able to evaluate your talent and make sure that are you getting what you're supposed to be getting for the amount of pay that you're paying. And so there's some things that I look at that kind of help me when I'm looking at my managers and my team out there. For example, when I look at my managers and service writers, are they selling at least 85% of their yearly salary each month? If they're not, it doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of them, but it means, you know, I have to look at why they're not doing well. Do they know how to do the job? Have I trained them right? Are they able to do the job? Even when I train them, can they sell that much? Or do they just not care? You know, they're just not able, they're able to do it, but they're just not going to do it. And I really just take that evaluation and always assume that they don't know how to do it. Maybe I didn't measure them as hard or as tight as I should have in the summertime. But I'll go back to my service managers and explain exactly what I expect for the amount of money that I'm paying. And the reason why that's fair, you have to have a dollar amount assigned to their salary, is that if a manager comes in and negotiates a great salary with me, well, that's fine, but then I expect better performance, you know, and so that's the only way that I can really look at that. A lot of times a manager will say, well, I'm really great at customer service, but customer service to me means that if you're good at customer service, you ought to be able to sell. And so it's a really good time to take your team, look at it objectively, and go, okay, I'm willing to pay this much money. Now, what am I expecting? I think the other thing that you have to look at is your bonus plan. Is your bonus plan accomplishing what you want? Are you getting the type of return that you thought you'd get? You know, I think something owners don't realize is sometimes you negotiate a really bad bonus plan. And that doesn't mean that because you committed to a bonus plan that you have to keep it forever. You know, you as an owner have to have the ability to go back and say, guys, I'm changing this plan. Or, hey, I'm changing the things that we're monitoring to make a bonus plan. If you've got dwindling car counts and your bonus plan doesn't incorporate that, that might be a mistake. Or if you're seeing that, you know, the bonus plan is so hard to hit, nobody ever bonuses, that could be a mistake. So it's a good time on people to really just reevaluate that whole side. Let me switch to the next screen. Okay, here's one of the big areas, and we're all over this right now. And every year when we go out and look at shops, I've found that people that don't make money a lot of times are just horrible at this inventory. The very first thing I want you guys to do, and I wish you'd do it today or tomorrow or by the end of the month, is go out and count your inventory. You know, if you're a shop owner that says, hey, I only count it once a year, you're making a gigantic mistake. Your inventory that's sitting on your shelf is really money that should be sitting in your bank account. And so what we like to do is look at our inventory, and we like to make sure that we only have inventory that's going to last 10 days, unless it's oil. And if it's oil, we want it to last all month. And so the first thing I would do is count it. Now, the reason why that's important, besides the obvious, if you're not counting it monthly, it's disappearing. But I don't think I've ever, I should say rarely, have been into a shop where, somebody invites me in, we look at their inventory. Rarely is their inventory right. Most of the time, there's inventory missing, especially if you count it once a year. Well, the problem with that is that if you don't write that inventory off right now or by the end of the year, you've paid taxes on that inventory. So you want to go in, there's no reason to wait till the end of the year. Go in right now, reset your inventory, look at everything that you have in inventory, and then I recommend a couple of things. One, if it's missing, just admit that it's missing, write it off. It's going to make your P&L look really bad, but it just means you're not paying taxes on that. Two, anything that you haven't moved in a long time, see if your vendors will take that inventory back. A lot of times they won't if it's too old. We've had people that's had old brake pads that's been there for 10 years or alternators and stuff. Get all that stuff and list it on eBay or Craigslist. Craigslist free. And make it a game and see how much of your old inventory you can sell online. You'll be amazed at the kind of money you'll get. You may end up with a few $1,000s in your pocket, which this time of the year is mission critical. So one of the other things that we've seen, and I think this is, it's almost funny because as I've grown, I've become one of the ones that vendors stock. Vendors, think about the guys that are coming by your shop, and they're stocking up your store with, I don't care if it's batteries, oil filters, all that. Well, what happens is their boss, it slows down in September, and their boss says, hey, you guys need to get out there and sell some inventory. Well, what do? They don't stock up the guys that are all over it, because they'll just tell them to take their stuff and go back. They know who their weakest customers are. The guys who never count their inventory, the guys that aren't on top of it. And so what do? That's who they pick on. They go to those customers and they stock the hell out of them. I've been on both sides. I've gone into stores and went, why do we have so much inventory? Well, it's because the general manager was basically clueless and wasn't even paying attention. He left it up to the vendor to count his own inventory and stock it up for him. Never let a vendor decide how much inventory to leave you. If you're doing that, stop it. They will always overstock you. And so you want to, I'm sure most of you have heard this, but you want to set par levels. And par levels means if you've got a vendor that's coming by every week, you should never have more than 10 days worth of inventory in your store from that vendor. They come every 2 weeks, you should never have more than 17 to 20 days worth of inventory. The smaller the inventory, just remember you're paying for that. So why have it sitting on your counters? Why have that? And that's also the more inventory, it's just easier for inventory to come up missing. That's how you get, the more product you have, it's easier for employees to steal it off your shelves. And so, a sign of a poor owner, and I know we don't have poor owners on here, and I've been victim of this myself, is when you see a store overstocked with inventory and an owner tells you, hey, I don't count my inventory monthly. The more often that you count your inventory and look at your usages, the more accurate it'll be and the less theft that you'll have. One thing I like to tell all shop owners, and I tell my general managers and regionals to do, is pull all your employees' names out of your computer and see how much they've purchased from you in the last year. If you want to see how honest your store is, where do they get their oil changes? We give our employees 10% over cost and half-price labor. I didn't say free labor, and I didn't say free cost. So there's really no reason for a technician or a general service or a manager not to do repairs in my store. If I've got an employee there that's been there 6 months or a year and they've never done an oil change, but they're going to convince me that they get on their back at home and do it. I mean, that's fine, but I'm less likely to believe that. I'm more likely to go, you know, maybe we're doing free oil changes and maybe we're doing other people's repairs for free. And all of that impacts your bottom line. So this inventory is just mission critical. If you want to make money in the fourth quarter, you can either turn your vendors away or they're going to be the ones making the money. So watch your vendors like a hawk. The final thing I'd make a point on that is that never let a vendor drop anything off without somebody counting it in and signing off for it. You know, we've seen this in our own shops. They pick on the weakest general managers or the weakest owners. So if you're the guy that's letting people do it, what they're telling you is you're the weakest guy out there. And you're the guy that they're looking to take advantage of. So make sure you watch those vendors like a hawk. Okay, this has been kind of fun for us this year. And we do this every year, and we've saved literally thousands of dollars. Our guy, Adam Yeager and Brian Gillis, Bobby Brown, those guys, the regional managers here, have really been on top of these costs, and it's been really neat to see what we've saved. Even something like uniform costs, which is really mundane, you know, little things like we may not put our logo on the shirts for technicians anymore because, you know, the customers really don't see them. It costs a little bit of extra money. At the end of the day, we're trying to get our costs down so that we can use that money somewhere else. And so you could take something as simple as uniforms. Even if you can save $100 on uniforms, that's $1,200 a year, and that $1,200 a year is coming out of the owner's pocket. Everybody else is getting paid. So as an owner, you're the only one that's going to really care about this. It's a great time to negotiate credit card fees. You know, a lot of you, we go after credit card fees every year. We always get told, hey, you know, we have people that'll call on us. We've done such a good job on that at corporate that we rarely get a better deal now, but every once in a while we can get something. Insurance cost, even if your insurance isn't due until April or May, this is the time that you negotiate. You don't wait until March or April to negotiate insurance, because chances are, if you're like us, you're blown out when it's due, and then there's a rush just to get it signed back up. So let's go back after insurance costs. We've saved a fortune in utilities by putting just little old electronic thermostats in there that turn the heat up or turn the air up at night in the heat this winter. You know, managing your lights, making sure they're on timers. Those seem like little things, but it's $400 or $500 a month. And so we've managed our shops several $1,000s down in September just by watching each line item. What I would tell you guys to do is take each line item and don't disregard it. Look at it hard and say, okay, is it making me money? Is it not? Is there a way to save? The rule of thumb for me is 2 areas that I don't cut, that I try to really avoid. I don't want to cut on my people side. I want the best staff. And then I don't want to cut on whatever I'm using that gets me customers in the door. For us, it's direct mail. And it may be for you, it may be newspaper, whatever. But I want customers coming in, and I want good people to take care of them. Outside of that, everything's free game, fair game. I touched on the one point on the remodels. We've remodeled all of our stores, all of our older stores in Atlanta. And this is a great time to do it right now. A lot of the handymen and things are not as busy, and so we have found great deals. We've been able to get them done over the weekends. And so that's another thing, that if you have the money or if you need to remodel, this is the time to do it. This is usually where I put people to sleep, but I think it's probably when people ask me what's your secret to making money, you know, it always comes down to budgets. You know, people at home that save money, that get ahead, you know why? It's because, you know, the husband and wife have a budget they go by. You know, you hear the word budget and they stick to it. Without a budget, it's kind of like a diet. Without a diet, you're probably not going to lose weight. Without a budget, you're probably not going to save money. This is so critical for the owners and to teach to your whole staff. As you know, a lot of times employees have this impression that we make a lot more money than we do, and in fact, it's very hard to make a profit. You know, you have to do a lot of things right to make a profit. And when you get your employees involved, your managers involved in seeing what your store best case potential is, a lot of times they're kind of shocked that, hey, for a month you may only make $5,000 or, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 for an entire month. And some guys make more. You might make $20,000. A lot of times employees think you're making whatever's at gross profit. They'll go, man, he marks up his parts 3 times. So he is making a fortune. What he doesn't realize is, yeah, but I'm paying for advertising, I'm paying for insurance, I'm paying for rent, I'm paying utilities. Where do you think that money's coming out of? It's coming out of either parts or labor. And so by teaching your employees this time of the year, employees will actually help you make more money when they see how their role, what their role plays a part in it. If employees think you're making just a fortune, well, then they tend to not care about certain things. They're more likely to steal. They're more likely to break things. They're more likely not to care, leave lights on. You know, they won't help you. And so by teaching them, it can really help you. If you'd like a copy of our budget, you can email Tim and we'll send you just a regular copy of our budget that you can look at. And I would tell you to go through that budget, compare it to your P&Ls now of what you're doing, and make sure that, you know, once you write that budget, you're tracking it all month. So if you say you're going to spend $400 in uniforms, then track it all month to make sure that's all you spent. Fourth quarter is not a time to buy a boat, although, well, it's a good time to buy a boat, just not through the company. You know, it's a good time to not buy anything that you don't need. This is your time to make money, to get yourself momentum to go into the first quarter of the year. So this is where my guys and I, we go through the budgets. We'll go through the budgets again tonight, and we'll start setting up this week for next month. Now, that's far different than setting your budget up for the year. You know, here in November, we'll write our budgets for next year, but we always have the flexibility to change these budgets based on where we're at. And, you know, we might see a trend where we're up in sales or down in sales, and we'll want to readjust those budgets so that we don't overstaff or understaff for that. So hopefully you guys will take heed on that, and let's move forward on the next one. Okay, here's a summary, and then we'll get into what I see as the trend, which I think there is a devastating trend going on right now across the country, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that right after this. Our action plan, what we talked about today, is evaluating your store costs, making sure that whether it's inventory or it's people, if it's people, evaluate talent. If it's the store, you know, evaluate your cost. You know, can you get better talent and can you lower your costs? If you can do that, it really sets you up to compete, which is something we'll talk about next. Evaluate your vendors. Make sure you're always counting whatever they're delivering to you. Make sure you set your PARs. Be set up right. Write a budget. You know, use our little budget. It's the very same budget plan that I use, and go through it. And then stick to your plan all month and set a goal for how much money you want to make. And so that's the summary for today. I wanted to make sure it was short and sweet. Hopefully it didn't bore you to death, but I think it's mission critical that you stay on top of this fourth quarter. If you do these very simple things, you should have the best fourth quarter you've ever had.
And guys, and some of you guys are extremely quick, because I've already got multiple emails from you guys about your budget. So I will definitely get those out to you guys. We did record this, so we will be placing this in our Learning Center. For a lot of you guys who haven't been there yet, we have a Learning Center that we've put together. You can go to mudlickmail.com. There's an Education tab. You can click on that. From the Education tab, there is a Learning Center sign-in on the left, which if you use Mudlick, username is user, all lowercase, and the password is Mudlick, all lowercase, you can get in there. We're in the process of retooling that to make it work better for our customers. So but there's a lot of great information in there, not just this, but as we have progressed over the last several years, what I ask Greg always to do is touch base on topics that are current and relevant right now, because we're all wrestling with those issues in your stores. So the next step that I really wanted to focus on, actually Greg wanted to focus in on right now, because it's impacting how he markets his company, staffs his company, overall long-term growth. He's going to talk to you guys a little bit today now about market trends and some of the industry changes he's seeing right now. These are some of the critical things he mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. So Greg, let's talk a little bit about those changes you see are pretty big changes.
Yeah, and I've been talking about this for a while, but you're really seeing it happening right now this year and for a lot of shop owners out there as we speak, and that is declining car counts. You know, we're seeing it. In our stores, we've had some declining car counts. We've had clients across the country, and even worse, people that are not clients that want to be clients have just been devastated with car counts. And so, you know, I get asked, well, why is that happening? And I'm going to be very blunt. There's some things that everyone needs to understand, and then I'm going to talk about how you can overcome this. You know, the main issue right now out there with car counts is in the oil change market. You know, if you go back just a couple years ago, most people still believed that they had to get their oil change every 3,000 miles. Well, today, the vast majority of people, through buying newer cars and through education, know that they don't need an oil change every 3,000 miles. You know, if you ask people, most people will say they need anywhere from 7,500 miles on up to 10,000. Now, we didn't make it any better for ourselves by selling synthetic oil changes. It's every 10,000 miles. So what does that mean? You can say, well, hell, I don't make any money on oil changes anyway. Well, this is the scary part about this. All of us has been doing the same thing. The good shop owners have been saying yes and going after those oil change customers and converting them into repair customers. Well, think about that. When I, you know, go back 4 or 5 years, and I think that's an advantage of somebody like myself that's a shop owner in shops every day, just like you guys, is I don't deal in theories, I deal in reality, and the reality is there's less cars out there. Well, the reason for that is, go back a couple of years, you might have had 3 shots at somebody that lived in your area to come into your store for service. They came in just about 3 times a year to get an oil change. So even if you missed once, you might get them in the next time or the 3rd time. Well, today, if somebody's only getting their oil change every 7,500 miles to 10,000 miles, you're down to 1 shot a year, just a little bit over. Let's say a customer might come to, it doesn't matter your shop, any shop out there, they might only visit a shop every 7 to 10 months, which is about 1 time a year. So that means if you're not in front of them, if you're not the one that they see, and you're up against 20 other shops, you have no chance in hell probably of getting that customer. So what we're finding is people that do no advertising, they're on their way out unless they have a monopoly. And that's what's so confusing in this business. You can ask somebody who hasn't dropped in car count, and they could give you the absolute wrong advice based on where their store is located. For example, I have stores that there's no competition around them. Well, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to be busy no matter, because there's no competition. So if I tell you, if I use that store as an example of what to do, and you've got 6 or 7 shops around you, you take my advice, you'll probably go out of business. You need to find, and I've got both. I've got shops with other shops all around me, and I've got shops where I've got a monopoly. For the most part, the shops that have a monopoly, we're up against some devastatingly tough competition. The one thing that I notice is that the competition isn't other independents. They're really the easiest to compete against. It's the big box retailers right now that have a bullseye on all of our independents' heads right now. They are coming after us hard, and they have to. they have the same issue, which is, think about the advantage. If you go back 15, 20 years ago, you've seen it when Walmart came in. Walmart wiped everybody out. Well, we have it in a much bigger way. We have Sears coming after us with NTB, and you've got Goodyear's and Firestone Corporate, which are less competitive. You have the Tires Pluses, which are big. You've got a lot of big boxes out there. They put in big, beautiful stores. They are very competitive. I mean, think about what they have that most shop owners on here don't. They run longer hours. They run less expensive oil changes. They have tires, thousands and thousands of dollars in tires, which all the information that I have read is that there's only two ways to get a customer, really, and that is through tires or an oil change. And so tire companies know that if somebody buys tires from them, they're more likely to stay with them as a customer. We know that if somebody does an oil change with us, they're not our customer unless they buy something else. And then they're more likely to always do business with us. In fact, they'll even buy tires from us. So it's kind of an amazing thing when you look at what's going out there. They have much nicer looking stores than most of the people on this call today. And so when you look at that, you go, well, hell, how do we compete against those guys? They have longer hours, they have tires, they have cheap oil changes, they have great looking stores. How am I going to compete? Well, the first thing that I recognize is I know where I can't beat them. I can't out-advertise them on TV. I can't out-advertise them on radio, and neither can you. And in fact, here's what you really see out there. Here's the trends of small shop owners, even just small business owners in general, doing TV ads. People that do low-budget TV commercials tend to try to be funny, and what they look like is shoddy and amateurish up against the big box chains. And so if you're one of those guys, don't do that. You just got to stop. It doesn't help you to be funny. It doesn't help you to wear a pink dress on TV or whatever the hell is going on. This is a serious business, and people in general, the higher-end customers, want to know that you're a professional. And so you're not going to compete against these big box chains who's spending $250,000 on a commercial that they can run nationwide. You're also not going to convince customers to pull 5 miles away. Does that mean you're going to get no customers from 5 miles away? That's not what I'm saying. But you're going to get the vast majority of your customers right in the area where your shop's at. And we've proven that over and over again. So the way you beat the big box retailers is you go, okay, I'm not going to win the war on TV and radio. Now, I sell direct mail, and I use direct mail, and that's what I use, and I don't apologize for it. It's the only thing I know that works. If it doesn't work, you've got the wrong offer. It's that simple. They're going to see it. They throw it in the trash if they don't need you. And I would refer back to what I said earlier. A customer is only going to visit you maybe, whether it's us, Goodyear, Firestone, Pep Boys, whoever, they're going to make 1 visit to 2 visits an entire year now. So if you can advertise 6 times, 6 months in a row, and that particular customer needs you on the 7th month, well, you're not going to see them. It's just that simple. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And this isn't an advertising conversation. I'm just telling you what I do. The other thing that I've looked at is how can we compete against these guys? What are they bad at? Well, big box retailers are notoriously bad for bad management. They've got so many shops that the guy running their front counter is just a derelict. He can't do crap. He has to have a computer tell him everything. He doesn't care about his customer because he might not be there, 6 months from now. Now, why don't the big box retailers care about that? Because we're not a whole lot better. We tend to hire those same people, and we tend to have the same problems. And so, but they're not that good at management. And how we overcome that is through systematically training our teams. So I would tell you guys that are on here today, if you're part of a 20 group, if you're part of a training institution, and there's so many good ones out there. I'm not one of them. I'm a shop owner. get back involved in your 20 group. Get back involved in your training. If you paid for it, you might as well use it. Most of them have the right advice. It's just you're not taking it. It's kind of like a diet. All diets work if you follow it, pretty much. It's just, you know, when you only follow it once in a while, it doesn't work. You can't blame the diet. So I would tell you, get back involved because you need that management training. As an owner, you need to get pumped up. Get ready for this battle because we're in a battle, and unfortunately, the vast majority of independents are going to lose, and they're going to lose badly. I don't want you to be one of them. The other thing that they're bad at is they have very low quality of repairs. You know, one thing I learned, I was Goodyear. I was the largest independent Goodyear dealer in the state of Texas in the 90s. And what I found out is I sold a hell of a lot of tires, and I did repairs, but I didn't do either one of them very well because it was really hard to advertise tires and service. And people who get service work may not necessarily want to get tires or vice versa. It's a tough battle that we all play. And so their quality is low. Technicians tend to not to like to work. Boy, that was funny. Technicians tend to not want to work for a tire dealer because they don't want to mount and balance tires all day. So you have an advantage with their low quality. They can't tackle the tough jobs. The other thing is because they're trying to do both, they're very slow. So they have no sense of urgency with their people. So we have some great ways that we can attack these big box retailers. You're never going to outspend them. They're going to always beat you there. Chances are they've got a better looking store than yours, unless yours is fairly new. But if you got to decide how you're going to compete. It's either through, when you're advertising, are you going to go after customers, a first-time customer to get tires, or are you going to go after a first-time customer to get the oil change? And that's just the hard facts of it. And if you try to do both, you're probably going to fail. Nobody has done a great job with that. Look at Discount Tire, the most successful tire chain out there because they only focus on tires. You look at some of these other big boxes and they're a disaster because they try to do both. We can't do both, so I've said I just need to be very good at oil changes, not because I want to be a Jiffy Lube, but because I want to be able to get that first-time customer, and the only way I'm successful in oil change is if I can sell them something. Remember what I said earlier, the customer's not yours until they buy something other than an oil change. The only way you're going to get customers to buy anything other than an oil change is through speed of service. You know, the things we talk about that we're pushing real hard in our company right now is our systems, being a yes company. Customer wants an oil change, we say yes, we'll get it right in. The speed of service, if we know we can get back to that customer, whether it's a flush or a maintenance item, safety item, chances are we have a better chance of upselling that oil change. We view oil changes like a baseball team looks at hits. If you're batting a 400, you're unbelievable. And we have to train our managers that. So you may get 6 no's and 4 yeses. You did a great job. We'll take those 4 yeses. But if you don't, you're going to get 10 no's because you're slow and you'll start to say these customers are bottom feeders. So we've got to tighten up on this. And I've already mentioned, you know, the training of your managers. The final piece of this deal is test driving the hell out of cars. You know, one thing I've seen in my own stores is we're just not that good at, we're great at selling, but we've had a high number of rechecks, which is ridiculous. So what I've instituted is I want a manager test driving a car. I want the technician to test drive it, but I want a manager too. I know that if I can stop rechecks, those customers will go, you know what, hey, they're better than the guy down the street that isn't going to test drive the cars. As a small dealer, we have to be better than these big chains, weak areas. That's our only chance to compete. Now, if you think about the opposite of that, history never lies. Look at the grocery store chains that decided not to open on Sunday. None of them exist today. You look at the grocery, the gas stations that didn't switch to convenience stores. Almost none of them exist today. So you can look around and say, what's the future look like? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to watch a large number of quick lube places go out of business in the next 24 months. A huge number. Or the ones that survive are going to go into the auto repair business. So we're not going to get less competition. It's just the ones that are left are going to go into full service auto repair. So that's going to hurt us. Who else is going to go into full service auto repair? Well, transmission shops. They can't survive. Nobody can survive on just transmissions. So guess what? They're going to convert to full service auto repair. But the vast majority of them are going to go out of business. And then you have the arrogant shop owners, not the guys on this call today, because you guys want to do better and you know you're in trouble. A lot of you have declining car counts and you know what's coming. Then a lot of shop owners, they live in denial. They think, oh, this is just a bad month. This is just a bad year. You know, the election's coming on. You know, we'll go back 4 years ago to the last election and our car counts were fine. There is a major shift. A lot of it is due to oil changes, and because there's less oil changes, there's less maintenance. People don't think about maintenance. They think about maintenance when they get their oil changed. That's just the way it is. When they get their tires changed, then the guy upsells them on brakes or some other type of maintenance. You're not going to have that opportunity anymore. The oil change business is dead. You're going to get 1 to 2 swings at bat. If you're not in the game, if you're not there, if you're not even out in front of the customer, next year at this time, I'll predict that there is a large number of shops that are closed. And so, unfortunately, that's the real future that we're looking at. And for the few of us that really step up to the plate and outperform in the areas that we can against these big box retailers, I think it's going to be a record year for 2013. Because a lot of people that are advertising today will cut back and cut back and cut back, which leaves our markets wide open for us. So I hope that helps some of you guys. You know, I'm in the thick of it too. We may have a follow-up on this subject. I'm writing an article about this now that'll probably come out in Motor Magazine at the end of the year. So I would, and I'll give maybe some more stats if that would help you guys. But hopefully this has been beneficial. I haven't done very many webinars. I've committed to 10 that I'll do a few of them. But I want to make it clear I don't want to get in the training business, and I don't want to be part of all that. I just want to be able to give insight, and then as a follow-up, if you need more help, get with your training organizations and your 20 groups. Talk about what we talked about today. Challenge my analysis of the future. You know, if you think I'm wrong, tell me where I'm wrong. You know, I don't want to be out there wrong, but I think I've got a pretty good, because I'm living it, I think I've got a pretty good understanding of what's happening right now. And this is going across the country. So anyway.
Yeah, and guys, I'll finish up, and I'll let you guys all know, because with so many people on this webinar, we just don't have an opportunity to do a lot of Q&A. But you can email me at tim@mudlickmail.com, and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. I'll close this webinar with this. One is, from a housekeeping standpoint, I will have this taped and recorded, and it'll be placed on our Learning Center. So you can refer back to that, or if you missed some of it, you can pick up some of the details there. But two, what we have found is, you know, direct mail in general is just a small ingredient in a big recipe, to use Greg's analogy. It's important to us that you guys are really aware of all the different things that occur in your business day to day that are important, that help your business grow and be successful. Marketing is just a piece of that. So hopefully a lot of this insight has been helpful. And I've talked to a lot of you guys out there before, either in person or around the country in different places. We just have to make a decision to make change. And I've talked to a lot of owners recently about change. Change is hard. Change is difficult. Change can be tough. People don't like change. Employees don't like change. But for us to survive and grow, we have to be willing to change. And those guys, and I can count dozens that are on this call today, who a year, 2 years, 3 years ago were different people. They were struggling. They had issues. They committed to change. They built systems in place. They stayed consistent with their marketing. They became a yes company. They became aware of what's going on in the industry. And today, they're one of the leading shops in their market. And so It's possible no matter what shop you're in, where you're located, or what your situation is, but you have to commit to the change. If you don't, then you guys are going to be the same people the following year thinking, man, this is going to be the year, this is going to be the year. Well, if you've been there for 20 years in the same industry and you haven't made any money and you're like listening to the same things, make a commitment to yourself to change, because it can happen, guys. So I just want to thank every one of you guys that came on this webinar. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to try to get Greg to come in and do maybe 2 or 3 a year to provide just some insight on what's going on so that you guys can continue to grow. I also encourage you guys to get more engaged with the organizations out there that are 20 groups or training companies. They all have a lot to offer. Talk about all this information, and together as an industry, guys, this is how we dominate our industry. So thank you very much again, guys. Have a great day. Greg, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys. It's the largest number of attendees I've ever had on a webinar, and so it's great to see a lot of familiar names up there. I wish I could talk to everybody, but you know, we'll do another one when we get closer to we'll probably in the first part of the year. So thank you guys very much.
And thanks again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.